What's up, YouTube? So I did a previous video on checking the alternator on this Toyota Rav4 2011 and determined that the alternator is bad. So now I'm just going to do a video showing how to replace it. And as usual, just want to thank all my subscribers. If you haven't already yet subscribed, please just take a moment, go ahead and do so. Hit that notification bell. That way whenever I do a new video, you guys will get notified. You could watch it. So I'm going to start off by disconnecting the battery terminals, which I've already done. So those are off. And to take these off, it's actually a 10 millimeter. So both terminals off. Now I move over to the alternator, and I gotta take, there's a bolt right here, gotta take that bolt off. Okay, and the bolt is right here. That's another 10 millimeter. There's one for the wire. That's another 10 millimeter. And then right below that right here is a connector. So I'm just going to go ahead, remove these two 10 millimeters, pop the connector off, and then from there just remove the reservoir out of the way just to free up some space. Alright, so got my 10 millimeter. I just got it on an extension just to make it a little easier. Just gonna take this off, this bracket that's holding the wire. Pop that out. Take my extension off. Now I'm going to get this other nut right here. And you could use your tool of choice, whatever works. So I got it on it. That off. Now the connector, there's a little tab on this side right here. You push and pull the connector outwards. So push in, pull the connector out, comes right off. And now we have this little clip right here. It's another little tab. Just push outwards, pop that up, and now we got this harness loose. We may have to take some other clips off, but as I go along I'll do the rest. And got to make sure battery is disconnected at this point. Before we touch the alternator, the battery has to be disconnected. So now I move over to the reservoir tank. Okay, so this one is 2 bolts, also 10 mil. Put my extension back on. Just push this out of the way a little bit. You don't want to force it, just want to move it out of the way. Pop this. Take this out. There should be some clips in this plastic piece in the front, but these are missing. Pick that up, get to this other bolt, get that off. That one off. Now the bottle picks right up. Just slide this over to the side. We're not taking any hoses off yet or anything. Now we got our alternator right here, so it's just to take the belt off of the alternator. So to get the belt off, it's 14 mil, and this tensioner right here is this nut right here on the tensioner is where you want to get 14 mil socket. You could use a ratchet in the socket. You want to get it as flush as you can, and once you pry it back, see the belt is loose, and take the belt off like that. Okay, so I got my tool on. Just want to pry it forward, take the belt off the alternator, and I always say take lots of pictures of the orientation of the belt. That way it's not a problem putting it back on. I don't hear any noise or anything from the alternator, but that's not really saying much. So I'll just try to keep as much tension on the belt as I can and move it out of the way a little bit. And the belt is off. The tool sometimes stays on there, but in this case I don't think it's gonna be in the way, so I'm just gonna leave it and then move on to the bolts for the alternator. So I gotta take this bolt off on the alternator. That's a 14 mil, and I got my 14 mil on my socket and drive right here. That's loose. Didn't like how it felt, so let's see. And make sure the engine is cool before doing all this. I'm kind of pressed for time, so the engine is still kind of warm. So here I have the top one almost all the way out. Now there's one at the bottom. It's gonna be very hard to see it. But it's right here. Gotta take that one off also. And it's not really a lot of room to work with, but this is pretty much the setup I'm working with. You can see my deep well socket, and I have my ratchet. So I'll try to see the difficulty of taking this one out. So I gotta try to hold the camera while I do this. So ratchet back, make sure it's on, break that bolt. Power tools always make these things go much easier, but I try to keep my videos using as much hand tools as I can. I know not everyone out there have power tools, so I try to keep it the least power tools that I could use. Try to incorporate that in the videos. So I'm just gonna reach in, see if I could turn it by hand. Okay, so that's turning. Just get the socket in there by itself. I'll just go ahead and back that out. Okay, so I got both of them out. Now it's just to pull these out. The bottom one is much shorter. And I just unclip the AC line. The hose that holds it, I just rotate it up, and it's a little tab. Push on the tab and it opens up. And I just took the line out, move it out of the way so I get some extra room. So from here I'll try to see if I could move this alternator. So I just use a pry bar, medium-sized pry bar, just to get in here, like so. Pry it out a little bit, just enough to get it moving. And then here you can see it's moving, and it's out. So now it's just navigate it out of there and try to figure if the line is in the way or if I have to take this off completely. But once I get that sorted out, I'll try to catch that on camera. Okay, so I try to move the AC line as much as I can out of the way. Move the reservoir tank. It's still connected, it's just I just swung it out of the way. So now I go back to my 10 mil, and I'm just gonna take this bracket off. And that's just the bracket that holds the wire harness. So I got that off. Put it with the rest of the stuff. Now I go in. Just try to gently move everything out of the way, and the alternator is out. And here you go. And this bad boy is hot. Okay, so after getting the new alternator, matching everything up, making sure the connector, the stud, all the brackets, everything looks like the original one. Now it's just to install it. And the insulation is just the reverse. Just got to move the hose out of the way. Try to get it in there. Once I get it in, turn it, make sure it lines up, and this lines up perfectly. So now it's just to put everything back together, put the bolts back in. The longer bolt was up top. Get that in, maybe just get a few threads. The lower bolt. That's a little tricky. Just gotta go from an angle. Okay, that one caught. Okay, upper one's also caught. Just gotta tighten these in. Torque to spec, which is not a lot. Ran that in by hand. Same for the lower. Get my socket, my 14 mil. Get it on there. Just run that in by hand. these are just snug, they're not like overly tight. Okay, to bottom. Upper, snug. Let's just double check our bottom one. That's good. That one's good. Now our alternator is in. Get all the brackets back on. This comes with a new nut. This has a cap that protects the wire. Slide it over, slide it on. Snaps right in place. Last but not least, my connector. Snaps right in. Perfect. So everything's back on. Just gotta put the belt on. I'm probably gonna change the belt, but that's another video. Okay, so I'll button this back up and do another check, make sure it's charging, and hopefully everything's good. Okay, so I figure I'll add some footage in real quick of the belt instead of doing a separate video. The belt kind of takes some patience, but if you wrap the belt around the alternator, put it around the pulleys. So you see the alternator, I have it around this pulley, then it goes under the tensioner, and then on the drive pulley. So I have it around those, and I left the AC compressor, I left that one last. Now the reason being, it's easier to do it from the bottom than the top. So once we get to the bottom, we have there's a shield, a dust shield that goes right here. It's just some clips. You pop the clips out, 1, 2, there's one under here. So once you pop these clips out, this area becomes exposed. And the vehicle is jacked up, of course, with the wheel off. So it's jacked up, wheel off. Then once I do that and I route the belt, I put the tensioner tool, I put that from the bottom, and you can see I have it up there. So that's the tensioner tool right there. So I put that from the bottom, and then once I put tension on it, so once I move this and put some tension, take the tension off the tensioner actually, then I'm able to slide the belt over the AC pulley. This seems like this the way it has to go on. Any other way, you'll be there forever trying to figure it out. So it has to go on from the bottom. Do the tensioner from the bottom, or if you have someone else, you could have them work the take tension off the tensioner from up top, and while that's off, you come to the bottom and you just push the belt onto the AC compressor pulley, and like that it's on in 5 minutes. Okay, so now that everything is buttoned back up, just have the wheel to put on. I have my meter again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start it, I'm going to come out, hook my leads up, and we should have 13 plus volts. So before I actually start it, I'm just going to bump it a few times just to make sure the belt is seated properly. So I'll just crank it over a little just to make sure. Then I'll start it. It's running. So now I'm back up front. I have my lead on. Power my meter on. Positive, negative, and I have 13.6, which is good. So the alternator is actually charging. So now I know that that's good. I'll just double check everything. go over everything just to make sure. Belt seated properly. Alternator, all the connections are okay. Make sure everything at the bottom is smooth. Try not to touch anything while it's running. Everything looks good. So now I just got to put the wheel back on, lower it, and job complete. Now please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.